Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Nortman Reviews, where we're going through the Onslaught storyline. A lot of issues to cover, a lot of side stories to go over. So if you're having a good time, if you're enjoying this, give the video a like. That would mean a lot to me. So we're in Onslaught Phase 2 now. Somehow, I don't know where the phases begin and end. It's hard to keep track of which issues are in order. They don't give you kind of a timeline. They don't go part one, part two, part three. I don't know. So you're bouncing back and forth between X-Men issues, Avengers, Fantastic Four, Cable, Wolverine issues, all this kind of stuff. So I'm doing my best to keep these in order. And I think I'm on the right track. So we're at Uncanny X-Men number 336. We're smack in the middle of the storyline, and somehow Onslaught has evolved from what he looks like originally here to now this weird toothy grin butt cheek monster with these fucking I don't know. He just this looked much better. This was a much more menacing figure. I don't. Onslaught is kind of a boring character. He doesn't do much. He's just evil for the sake of evil, and he wants to destroy the world, I guess. I don't know what his ultimate plan is. He's just doing shit. And now, but he was more, I don't know, a subdued menace here as a more of a cackling villain that he turns into be, I guess. And I don't know how he evolved into this, where that happened. But it is what it is. I think it was supposed to happen here, but he's already, whatever, I don't know. So we start off, and Joe Mad is at his best. Great artwork. You got Franklin Richards, and he's trapped inside the depths of something. It doesn't say. He's trapped inside Onslaught. Him and Xavier, like their psyches or their essence are inside him somehow. And he's holding on to Professor Xavier because Professor Xavier is also trapped. And it turns like Onslaught goes from Xavier being the villain to being two completely separate people, which was a concept that just made Onslaught much less interesting. It wasn't them fighting Xavier. It was them fighting a crazy fucking monster born from Xavier, I guess. So he's like, I recognize you. You can help me. Please wake up. But he doesn't. And he keeps talking about how Onslaught's going to help me. He's going to protect me, but I don't believe him. He's like, tell me what to do. Help me. And then he hears a voice, and it's Onslaught. And he says, let the old man rest. He deserves it. And there's Onslaught of how he was. So this must be the issue where he changes. But it doesn't really show it. So there he is. And he's just saying, you're going to need your strength, Franklin, because you and I we have a world to conquer. And do what with? What are you going to do once you conquer this world? And, Franklin, he's just a little boy. He's like, I don't want to do any of that. I just want to go home. I want to go home. And that kind of like makes the expression on Xavier's face change from like emotionless and like lifeless to some fear and sadness. So there's Apocalypse, and he's hanging out with Uatu the Watcher. And Onslaught, Apocalypse, he's talking about how he's impressed with humanity, even though he feels humanity is the weaker of the races, and he always wanted mutants to ascend. He's like, he respects their mutual bid for survival. All this shit is going on. Onslaught, in one of these issues, I think it was this issue of X-Men, like sent out the shockwave, basically fucked everybody up, and the Sentinels are attacking, and New York is just like being attacked and is in shambles and everything. So humans are trying to survive, and he's kind of impressed. You see like a policeman trying to shoot and help protect these humans from a sentinel coming down, people opening up an elevator and rescuing people. Everyone's trying to survive, and Apocalypse respects that. So it cuts to, you can see here, there's Onslaught Citadel, city is burning, and Iceman and Human Torch, like, they meet up with each other. They're just kind of like, they're basically in the trenches right now, it seems. And they're like, everyone else had to drop back. Things aren't going well. We're left to save the world. Hawkeye comes flying in, ducking and diving for cover. And Human Torch says his nephew, Franklin, is trapped, and he wants to go get him. And these three are like, okay, should we just do it? The three of us? I kind of like this idea of like these, I don't know, almost mid-level characters from their respective franchises, Fantastic Four, Avengers, and X-Men, kind of like having a moment, talking with each other. But then in drops Sue Storm, Reed Richards, Cyclops, and Psylocke. And they're like, no, don't go anywhere just yet. We still have plans to do. Everyone's fine right now. But just hold on a fucking second. That's what they say. So Reed Richards, he came out to get some readings done, and he's going back. Sue Storm is staying. She's like, her son is out there. She's not going to abandon her son. So Human Torch, Iceman, Reed Richards, they go back. Hawkeye and Psylocke to help people in the streets, and Cyclops and Sue Storm are just fucking around. I guess they're at the front lines, more or less. And then several blocks away, you got stupid, boring as fuck Joseph, clone of Magneto, having a little hissy fit to himself. I don't know. He hears people screaming. He's trying to get people out who are trapped underneath the subway, and which he does with his powers of magnetism. And he rescues his people, but they somehow, even though, he's a clone of Magneto, no one knows that. Everyone thinks he's Magneto, but he looks considerably younger, right? And he's not in a Magneto garb, but these people see that it's Magneto. Somehow they recognize him. It's not like, I don't know. Would you recognize him like that and just immediately start wanting to attack him? But Gambit comes and dives and grabs him out of the way, and they go floating up to the top of the building. And Joseph's like, those people were afraid of me. And yeah, Gambit says, yeah, stupid Joseph, if you are Magneto, you had a life that was not great and people don't like you. And he's like, what kind of a man was I? It's like, and like you said, Gambit, in another issue, this was all my fault. And then Gambit tries to console him. Rogue is on a rooftop across the way, and she's watching them. I'd always enjoyed this profile picture of Rogue. I think in my youth I had reproduced that, drawing it. And she's like, oh, Remy, when are you going to stop surprising me? Even though you think boring as fuck Joseph is boring as fuck, you still reach out to him anyways. And boring as fuck Joseph, he says, like, I'm going to go and I'm going to take the fight to Onslaught. If I have something to do with this, I'm going to stop him. So he fucks off. Gambit's like, no, don't. Come back. I'm going to do everything. Go ahead. I don't care. So Rogue comes down to Gambit. It's like, oh, that must have been hard. I saw what you did. It's very nice. He's like, no, Cher, not having you in my life, that was hard. And they give each other a hug, and they fly off. It's a very quick moment between these two. All right. So back at Four Freedoms Plaza. So Iron Man, Vision, and I think Ant-Man here. That's Ant-Man, that's Giant Man, so that Scott Lang must be, and that must be Hank Pym, right? Like, you have to be giant all the time. I know your name is Giant Man, but shrink down a little bit. But anyways, there was an electromagnetic pulse or surge from Onslaught a couple issues ago, and it fucked up these guys who have circuitry. So Reed Richards trying to figure things out, how to take down Onslaught, trying to come up with weapons. And he calls in Jean Grey. And he's like, I need your help with something. And Reed Richards starts rumbling off all this like nonsense that no one quite understands. And then he basically, whatever question or what he wanted to ask, he basically answers with just him asking himself. So it's kind of a funny moment. So he's like, and then if I do this and that, and then I should, And he's like, thank you, Jean. No problem at all. And she's just like, oh, he's so amazing. He's the Fantastic Four leader. And he's the Fantastic Four what the Avengers and X-Men always have aspired to be. And he keeps it together. And nice drawing. Iron Man, he's fucked up. But he gets up because he wants to keep on fighting and keep on working. And he talks about how when Cyclops and Jean Grey came back, they brought plans from Mirror Island about the psionic armor, something to a defense against Onslaught's powers, because Onslaught's powers come from Xavier, from the Xavier protocols. So he's like, give me 10 minutes in my empty lab and I'll come up with something. And Thing is like, man, you can barely stand. Quit pushing it. 10 minutes is all you have. And he's like, and yeah, even if that would you give up if you were in my position? I'd call you a liar. She's like, what a revolting development this is. So Thing helps Iron Man stumble his way to his lab. So now Onslaught is doing something. I guess he's going through his metamorphosis here. It is as I knew it would be. By merging with the mind of Xavier and the first child, I am growing, changing, becoming more powerful than even I could have imagined. So, yeah, this must be where he's changing. It's not clear, really. You just kind of have to guess. And I guess Cyclops and Sue Storm are close enough to see what's going on. And she's like, that's it, fuck you, I'm going after my son. And Cyclops tells her, like, you just need to wait. We'll get him back. And he's a brave kid, he says. And she's like, exactly, he's a child. We're all adults. He's like, he shouldn't have to deal with this. So, pardon me, I burped. She, like, invisible shields him away. And then from out of nowhere comes Storm and Cable, because they had met up in this issue of Cable, and Storm went and helped him, and they fought Hulk. And then I don't know how that ended, because I don't have the continuation that was in the Hulk comic, because I don't collect the Hulk. So Cable and Hulk and Storm are here. So somewhere deep within the core of Onslaught, Xavier wakes up because Franklin Richards is all sad, weeping upon him. Franklin kind of gives him a rundown of what's been going on lately, and Xavier's like, oh, dear God, does this monster know no bounds? No, he's a monster. So he says Onslaught's very bad. He's going to try and get you to help him. No matter what he says, no matter what he does, you have to fight him. Do you understand? He's like, yeah, but how? And there's Onslaught, and he's in this crazy fucking cackling mode now. And he says, like, doesn't matter. I already have his powers. And I already have the child. And Xavier, and he whisps him away, right? And Xavier says, you monster, I'll find a way to destroy you. And he says, how will you do that without your vaunted mental powers? Whoa, what do you mean? You're bright, Charles. You'll figure it out. And I think they reveal later somewhere that he lost his mental powers. Which is fine. Who cares? Forgot about that. So outside, suddenly, like, there's something going on within Onslaught, and then the physical fight outside. And boring as fuck, Joseph comes down, and he wants to fight Onslaught. He gives him a little magnetic whammy. And they're fighting, and he does... Onslaught hits him back somehow. Doesn't really matter. You know they're fighting. And then he opens up a compartment in his chest, and everyone sees. Now suddenly, like, everyone's there. Thor shows up from out of fucking nowhere. And like, Thor, what's he doing? He's like, I just fucking got here. Why are you asking me? Ask some of these other fucks who've been here before. And so they see that he has Xavier. God damn, Rusty. Just jumped from my table to a fucking counter behind me. Is this the evidence you need, sheep? Onslaught says. Must I kill the one who spawned me in order to prove I am no longer tethered to this all too fragile creature of flesh and bone? Boy, that's a mouthful. Or is it enough that I torture him slowly, the same way I tend to make the world suffer? And Cyclops is like, take him. So Storm and whoever that is and Thor, like, they're charging from behind him. Cyclops got a little thing in him. That's just a weird. So, Cable's there, and he's fighting there with boring as fuck Joseph, and a magnetic flare comes up, and Joseph's like, where'd that come from? And Cable's like, that was me psionically messing with your powers, hope you don't mind. He's like, actually I do. He's like, tough shit, I don't care. But then there's a crack in his armor right here. Cyclops sees it, takes off his visor, says it's now or never, and just kaboom! Shoots this big fucking optic blast. Hits Onslaught square in the crack. Crack in his ass. And then Invisible Woman with her invisible force fields starts prying it open a little bit more. So now Xavier there, and he can see out, and he's saying, I'm existing on two planes of existence at the same time. Inside the astral plane, yet outside in reality as well. So that's fucking crazy. And he says, is there nothing beyond the scope of his power? And Onslaught's like, are you guys finished? And Cyclops like, I don't know, Thor, are we finished? So there's a crack in his armor from this magnetic flare. Cyclops shoots him to make it go even larger, and Invisible Woman starts prying it open. So everyone's kind of helping out, except Gambit and Rogue. They're just doing fuck all. So he says, Thor, are we finished? This is a cool moment with Thor. I say thee nay, for Odin, for Asgard, Xavier shall be free. And he just bursts through Onslaught with his hammer, grabbing Xavier and freeing him from that. And it says that should be done. That should be it. Done, over, fini. The end of the creature known as Onslaught. Its host body, Charles Xavier, has been forcibly removed. Xavier was Onslaught. Onslaught was Xavier. One could not exist without the other. So if it gets Xavier out, then Onslaught should die. Onslaught's fucking huge at this point. Wrong! It says, at last, freedom. Now, behold my mighty hand. And he fucks everybody up again. It's the merging of Xavier's unchecked psionic abilities, Magneto's fury and rage and control over the electromagnetic spectrum, which cloaks the Earth, and the untainted and untamed power of Franklin Richards, which is to reshape reality with something less than a thought. And they are all combined into a single unspeakable act. So it fucks everybody up and everything around it. And you see Cyclops is laying slumped over. I don't know what's going on there. Gambit, you see his fucking foot right there and a hand. I don't know. So it messes with everybody. But then Sue Storm, Cable, and Thor were kind of protected. She has a invisible shield, and he's using his powers to amplify it. And she's like, we have to get back in there. We have to get Franklin. And he's like, Susan, that's fucking insane. And Thor's like, yeah, Cable seems to know what he's talking about. And she says, to live without my son, Thor, it's worse than death. And she asks Professor Xavier, can you pierce the psionic storm? Can you assure me that Franklin is alive and they're still somewhere? But Xavier can't. His psionic powers are no longer working. So, then it goes nearby. You see the Citadel and all the shit going on, and Apocalypse is watching from nearby. He's like, there's anger and rage, then there is madness. This is beyond madness. And the Watcher says, whatever this creature called Onslaught has become, he now presents a greater threat than ever. And he says, for the first time in 2 millennia, you and I agree, Uatu, but what is to be done? he says, I believe you already know the answer. And he has this image of Cable right there. So at least it tells us there, like, what's the next issue. And there's just more here, like, oh, look, Sentinel's fighting Spider-Man, so that's happening in a Spider-Man book somewhere. Heroes Reborn preview by Jim Lee and silly Rob Liefeld. Took the opportunity. I don't have these books. If you want to see them done, go to my brother Rob's channel and tell him that John said to do the Heroes Reborn stuff. He's already done some fucking crazy-ass, silly Rob Liefeld Captain America issues. So, go check that out. So we're winding down. We're getting to the end. We only have a few more issues left to go. So, again, thank you for watching. Hit that like button. Give me comments on what you think about all this. We'll get going on with the next video soon. So, thank you for watching. I'll see you again.